Good morning, everybody. My name is Karthik Chandy, and today we will discuss VMware vSphere networks. We will start our discussion by understanding some of the basics of our physical computers and how networking works with physical computers, and then we will use some of those concepts and compare them with vSphere networking to make sure we have understood the vSphere networks better. So let's look into the basic components of our physical infrastructure. So in a simple network, I have 4 computers. You can use any operating system, Windows or Linux or any operating system that you're comfortable with. So these 4 systems are connected to a physical switch, and now all of them are able to communicate with one another. Now let us get down to some of the basics and understand what are the basic components that are required for a simple network to work. Okay, so I'd like to broadly classify this into 2 types. We will classify them as hardware requirements and software requirements. So you're going to have to help me out with this list. What devices do you need under the hardware component section for a network to work?
A host machine,
You need a host, very good.
a NIC card,
Good. You need a NIC card.
or a network device like a switch.
HBA. Do you need an HBA card when you're talking about a simple network?
Oh, that's for the SAN.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
A network device like layer 2 device like a switch.
Okay. So you have an option to use a switch. Good, you mentioned a layer 2 device. So I could also use a hub, although it's seldom used these days.
Yes.
So we've got a switch or a hub. Anything else?
You could use
Yes.
a router.
You could use a router, but in a more complicated network. We are going to talk about a very simple network. We'll go to the complexities a little later.
And a media to transmit the data like a physical cable, or it could be wireless also in that way.
Very good. So I could broadly classify that as connectivity option.
Connectivity, yes.
Yes, I need connectivity. So broadly, if I look at it, these are the components I need under the hardware section for a simple network to operate.
Yes.
Now, help me out with the components that are needed under the software section for the network to function.
The operating system in a host machine.
Very good. You need the operating system.
Drivers for the NIC.
Excellent. You need the drivers. Anything else?
The IP address.
Good. So you need an IP address. Any other type of address do you need?
MAC address.
Excellent. You need a MAC address. I'd like to put your subnet, your gateway, your DNS and all of that under the IP section. So
Yes.
let's leave all of that under the IP. Anything else?
I think that should be it.
Is it? Assume this system is Windows and this system is Linux.
You need some protocol to
Very good. You
connect them
need
together.
some protocols. Correct?
Yes.
So this is your physical network. I hope this is simple and you've understood what are the components, and we would not go into, when I say a simple network, it could just be a ping sent out from one system to another system. It's as simple as that. Now let's move on and let us see how we can compare this with the vSphere network. Okay, so let's look at that. Here When I talk about vSphere networking, what are the different components in this network and how does it operate? Let us start with some of the basics. Let us assume we have an existing external network. Okay?
Yes.
And you gain access to this external network using a physical switch like we did there. So your physical switch is connected to an external network.
Yes.
And here you have your ESX server trying to connect to it. Now obviously to connect to it you need NIC cards, right? So let us assume you have a group of NIC cards. Excuse me. Right, you have multiple NIC cards. So let's just label what we have discussed here. So this is your external network, this is your physical switch, and obviously there are ports on this physical switch. And your NIC cards connect to these ports. Alright? Now tell me one thing, what do you have sitting directly on top of these NIC cards?
Drivers?
Yes, that's a component, but if you look at it in a broader perspective, it is your operating system.
Okay.
So in the vSphere environment, we are talking about your ESXi operating system. We also refer to it as the VM kernel. Correct? We have the VM kernel. Now, what do you have running on top of your ESX server? What sits on top of the ESX server?
Virtual machines.
Very good, virtual machines. So you have virtual machines. Let's take a few examples. Let's say we've got 4 virtual machines here that are installed with different operating systems. Now if you remember me telling you this earlier, that the basic concept in virtualization is that a virtual machine has its own set of independent virtual hardware, and that virtual hardware is mapped to the physical hardware by who? Who does the mapping of the virtual device to the physical device here?
The VM kernel.
The VM
VM
kernel,
kernel,
or ESXi
ESXi.
software. Correct?
Yes.
So here, since we are talking about networking, we'll restrict our discussion to NIC cards alone.
Yes.
So you have NIC cards. You can have one, you could have multiple NIC cards on your system like on a physical machine. Now these NIC cards are called as virtual NICs. And in VMware terms, your physical NIC cards that you see here are also called as VM NICs. In fact, they are labeled as VM NIC 0, VM NIC 1, so on and so forth. So you have multiple NIC cards. And of course, these are your virtual machines: VM1, VM2, VM3, VM4, whatever operating system you want. Now, very slowly, let us start comparing the vSphere networks with these physical networks we discussed, and let us see if we have all the requirements that we mentioned. are they present? Let's start with the hardware section.
Yes.
We are talking about a host. Do we have a host there?
Yes.
What is the host?
ESXi is the host.
Correct, but we are talking about the VM in this context because the VM needs to communicate.
The host is the virtual machine operating
Virtual
system.
machine. The virtual machine.
Virtual machine.
So this becomes your virtual machine.
Yes.
NIC cards. Do your
Virtual
virtual
NIC cards?
machines have NIC cards?
Yeah.
Yes.
VM NIC cards.
Your virtual machines have NIC cards?
Yes.
So this requirement is met.
Yes.
This requirement is also met.
Yes.
Now, to address this requirement, vSphere has its own virtual NIC, virtual switches, which help you out with this. And as I said, the name is vSwitch. Let's call this as vSwitch 1.
Okay.
Okay? So we have a virtual switch. So even this requirement is met.
Can we create a multiple virtual switch in ESXi?
Of course, we can have several virtual switches.
Okay.
Now, one of the documents I would recommend that you read, there is a document from VMware, it's called as the Configuration Maximums document.
Okay.
Now, this is a very helpful document. What this document offers is, it offers you the option to understand what are the minimums and maximums and recommended values. Like, for example, how many virtual switches, how many ports on a switch.
Okay.
Now, just for your information, on one of the virtual switches, you can have up to 4088 virtual ports
Okay.
on a standard virtual switch. There is another type of switch which we might discuss a little later called as the distributed virtual switch. On that switch, you can have around 8000 odd ports. So these are big numbers we are talking about. Right. Sorry. Let's come back to what we were discussing.
Yeah.
Now, hub is a very old and in many cases redundant.
Yes.
We don't use them anymore. So there is no equivalent of a hub in your vSphere environment. We only talk about the switch, but it's a virtual switch. So we have that. Now, as you just mentioned earlier when we were discussing the physical networks, as you yourself mentioned, that connectivity doesn't always have to be through cables. You have different options like wireless connection also.
Yes.
Similarly, now if we go back to our vSphere network, the network does not have to be through cables between your virtual machine and the switch.
Yeah.
You define a logical connection
Okay.
on your virtual switch to a virtual NIC card. As this. Correct, right? You can see you have these virtual machines interconnected and they have got different virtual switches. Now, tell me about one thing. Assuming you have the virtual switch connected and they have different ports on them, you've even met this requirement of connectivity. Correct? So we've met that. So you see, when we come to the hardware part of it, we've met all the requirements. Now comes to the next section called as software requirements. Now under software, the first thing is operating system. Can you install an operating system inside your virtual machine?
Yeah, I should.
You can. You can install almost any x86 based operating system. Of course, refer to the supported list of operating systems before you actually try installing one. So you've got the operating system. Any guesses what component of VMware will take care of the drivers that are required?
The kernel should take care of the driver,
Yes, it does, but
or the
you have,
ESXi package itself.
it does. You have to install VMware tools inside your virtual machine, don't you?
Exactly.
That is the component that offers the drivers that is required by your virtual machine. Having said that, if there are some devices which require additional drivers, you can still install drivers that are needed inside your virtual machine. But as far as networking is concerned, you have a supported NIC card, it should work. You don't need to do anything additionally. Now coming to the IP address, tell me, how do you assign an IP address to a physical machine?
It either uses a DHCP or you
Static
assign
IP address. The same logic applies here. As long as the virtual machine in question has access to a DHCP server, it will acquire an IP. Or if you need to, you can even set a static IP address. Correct? So we have met that requirement as well. This is met. This is met. Now coming to the MAC address. Now what happens is, when you create a virtual machine and you assign a virtual NIC card to it, the VM kernel assigns a virtual MAC address to the virtual NIC card.
machines.
And it uses a hashing mechanism to generate a MAC address. So let's just make a note of it. Assign a MAC to virtual NIC. Now, do you have any guess where this MAC address is going to be stored?
It should be on the ESXi somewhere.
Correct, but this MAC address corresponds to the virtual machine's MAC address. So where will this be present?
Up.
The virtual machine, remember, has its own configuration file. This is the
Or the
VMX file, the virtual machine configuration file. Now you can always go into the virtual machine configuration file to find out what is the MAC address of a VM. Now, should you want to change that MAC address, this in fact is one of the ways of changing it. Just edit the VMX and replace the generated MAC with a MAC of your own choice, and that will generate a new MAC. I mean, that will start using a new MAC, of course. You could do it through command line, or when the VM is in a powered off state, you could even do it using the vSphere client in the GUI. Right, so it's quite flexible that way. So you even have a MAC address. Correct? Lastly, we need protocols. Now when I talk about a protocol, look at the physical infrastructure. Think about it. You can broadly classify your protocols into two parts. One is the protocol that runs inside your host, and one is the protocol that runs inside your switch. Ethernet protocol. Now with regards to the protocols required inside your host, who provides the protocols inside the host? The operating
The
system.
host operating
TCP,
system.
IP and all of that. So you've got your operating system, and that will provide those protocols. With regards to the protocols required on your virtual switch, the VM kernel takes care of those Ethernet protocols. It's a very simple basic device. It provides the required protocol. So you see, we have now discussed and met all the requirements that are needed both by a physical and the software side of the requirements for networks, which are available on your ESXi server. And using this, you can now communicate between one another. So for example, VM1 and VM2 in this picture will be able to communicate with one another. They can ping and share data amongst one another and do all those required tasks. Now, think about it. Look at that picture. In this existing example, can VM1 or VM2 communicate with VM3?
Yes, with the help of a vSwitch, yes.
In the existing scenario, with what we just discussed now, in this diagram, will VM3 be able to communicate with VM2?
VM3, no.
Very good. It won't be able to communicate because we have not addressed that requirement. We have not connected VM3 to that switch. Which brings me to an important point, that a virtual switch is just a set of networking rules. You and I look at the virtual switch as a switch just to make our job easy, to define our requirements. You should be able to communicate from here to there and not from there to somewhere else. You use a virtual switch to do it, but ultimately it translates into a set of networking rules. Right? That's how it works. Now, keeping that in mind, in my existing setup, will VM1 or VM2 be able to communicate with this external network?
It should.
Would it? What path would it take to communicate?
It would use the virtual NIC and
Okay.
to the vSwitch and to the physical NIC
But where is the link to the physical NIC? There is no NIC, so it won't be able to communicate. Such a switch that does not connect to a physical NIC is called as an internal only virtual switch, which provides network communication within the ESX servers to VMs running on it. You can think of it as a private network. It is not accessible outside. Now, if you want to do that, what you would have to do is create, for example, another virtual switch. Let us call this as vSwitch2. Create a virtual port, connect it to your virtual machine, and any guesses now?
Then connect it to the
Connect it to the
physical NIC.
physical NIC. Now you have a path to go outside.
So should it be done manually or is that taken care by the ESX?
When you create a virtual switch, you must define whether it should be an internal virtual switch. In that context, you don't connect any NIC card. Or if you want to have access, then you must define which NIC card must be connected to it. Because by doing this, notice you're doing another thing. You are defining the paths that must be used. Assume these NIC cards are all of different speeds and qualities. Now by doing this, you can restrict this VM indirectly to use only this path and not use any other path. And you can create multiple switches and actually channelize your bandwidth in that way. Correct? So you can do that. This is an example of a switch which gives you access to an external network. Now, there could be another requirement. VM4 might be a very, very important VM, and it might have to send and receive large amounts of data which require large amounts of bandwidth. So to address this, what you can do, in my example, I would create another switch, connect this here, but maybe one NIC card would not be able to handle the bandwidth required by virtual machine 4, and hence I can group a set of NIC cards to connect to a same virtual switch. The idea is so that I can load balance, and it also serves the purpose of a highly available network. Such a feature that you've used where you're grouping a set of physical NICs is called as a NIC team. A NIC team. So look at three startling possibilities here. A virtual switch with no NIC card. Let's start using the word VM NIC, by the way, which refers to the physical NIC. A virtual switch with no VM NIC, a virtual switch with one VM NIC, and a virtual switch with multiple VM NICs. And you've understood the use case in each of these scenarios. So is that clear till here?
Yeah, and what is the maximum number of NICs that you can actually team?
Your ESX server supports 32 physical NIC cards or VM NICs.
Okay, so ideally you get the aggregated bandwidth of 32 NICs.
But you very rarely use it. Today you've got network speeds of 100 gigs. So one or two of them will serve your purpose. Even two just to serve the purpose of high availability. One is more than enough. Most of your UCS servers come with these CNA cards that today supports 100 gig speeds, which can also address your LAN requirements. So that answers a lot of questions in terms of how many cards you actually need, right? It all depends. You've got 1 gig, you've got 10 gigs, 40 gigs, 100 gigs. Depends on that. Okay, now I'm going to make a very, very important point. Let's go back to the physical networks here. I want to talk about something very, very important. Now here, if you look at this setup, I'm not talking about vSphere networks, just a normal physical network. Can you tell me what is the IP address of this port that is used by a host to connect to that switch? What IP address does it use?
No.
No idea. Okay.
Is that the version of the IP address you're talking about?
No. Let's talk about IPv4 addresses itself.
Okay.
So what IP? How does it get the IP there? Very important point. There is no IP address. a port on the switch has no IP address, and the reason is because this is a layer 2 device, and layer 2 devices communicate using MAC addresses, not IP addresses. Now don't mistake this way, sometimes people tell me my switch has an IP, I can use it and log into my switch.
That's the management IP.
Correct, that is the management IP. I'm talking about the uplink port IP. What is the the uplink port's IP address? There is no IP address. So I would like you to remember this. This is a very important point, that ports on a physical switch do not use IP addresses because they are layer 2 devices. Let's keep that thought running, and let's use the same concept in the vSphere network and see how it works there. Now, in a vSphere network, your VM NIC or your physical NIC as we have defined it also is called as a uplink device. Furthermore, like an uplink on the physical switch, this is a layer 2 device, which means to say it is not possible to assign a IP address directly to a physical NIC card on your ESXi server. That's a very important point. And if you ever find it hard to understand why is that so, it's because your physical NICs, like a port on the physical switch, works as a layer 2 device. Hence, you do not have an IP address for the NIC card. Although in Windows and Linux and many other operating systems, you can assign an IP to the NIC card. A NIC card works both at layer 1, layer 2 and layer 3 of your, there's a stack, the OSI layers. So, keeping that thought in mind, we now, then where is the IP address? Of course, we discussed that, isn't it? We assign the IP address to the virtual NIC, not to the physical NIC. Is that clear?
Yep.
Right? Now, lastly, then how do I access my ESXi server? My ESXi server is called as ESXi-lion so and so, but then obviously there must be an IP address behind it. So where is this IP address coming from? Right, is the question.
Is that for the management you're talking
Correct,
about?
the management IP address, but where does this management IP address actually come from? Right? That's a question. Again, the answer still remains the same. You have a management IP, yes, but you cannot assign it to the physical NIC card. It is not possible. Then where do you assign it? Now to assign it, what you can do is, you can create a vSwitch. Let me call this as vSwitch 0. And I connect a physical NIC card to it. And I create a virtual port. Remember, any port on the virtual switch is a virtual port. So any port here, but this type of port is specifically called as an uplink port because an uplink connects to it. Everything else is a virtual port. Now this type of virtual port that I create on my virtual switch for the management is called as a VM kernel port. The type is VM kernel. You can obviously label it as anything. You could even call it as your management port. And you assign your IP here to this virtual port and not to the physical NIC card. Correct? So you can do that. That is where you actually assign your IP. So that again brings back the point I've made. You cannot assign an IP to a physical NIC. You assign it to a virtual port or a virtual NIC in your vSphere environment. So now, let's finally try and list the different types of virtual ports that can be used in your vSphere environment. You can broadly classify them as two types of virtual ports. The first one is called as a virtual machine port group. What is a virtual machine port group? A virtual machine port group is a collection of virtual ports used by VMs to communicate. It's just a collection of ports, and it serves the purpose of VM communication. Now this communication could be VM to VM, or it could be VM to some other system. You must connect it to a virtual port. The second type is called as the VM kernel port type. Now the VM kernel port, unlike the virtual machine port group, is a multi-purpose port. It can be used for different reasons. One of the advantages is management, as we just discussed. We could also use this for vMotion. In future, if you would like one or more of these VMs on the server, ESX server, to be vMotioned onto another host, then you must create a VM kernel port and enable the vMotion option on it. Similarly, if you want to use fault tolerance, we will obviously discuss these options at greater details when we come to those sections of the chapter. So we've got fault tolerance. It's a feature wherein you have a critical VM and you don't want to lose access to the VM even if the host fails. That's running. And then of course, if you are using software IP storage, to be more precise, if you are using NAS based storage, if you are using software IKZ, or you are using software SCOE. So any one of these reasons, if you want to use them on an ESX server, then you must create a VM kernel port. And it's always better that you create VM kernel ports on different virtual switches so that you can channelize specific requirements through different paths. Now, because there's a lot of activity that is taking place, it's better that I make this also a team here. Just a best practice. Your management network must always be highly available. And ideally, don't share different features on the same switch. If you have multiple switches, you can segregate it. You can channelize your network. And to add to this, I'd like to make one more important point. Moving on a little, you must have heard of this concept of a DMZ or a DMZ, a demilitarized zone, right? So generally, we refer to it as some kind of a NATing option where to get into a private network, you first have to pass through a system, and that system will decide whether you can get in or not. Now in this example, VM1 and VM2 could be your NAT clients, and your VM3 could operate as your NAT server. So what I will do, is just simply do this. Now, if VM1 or VM2 have to communicate to the external network, they must all pass through VM3, which has some kind of an NATing software which will decide whether the traffic can flow in or out, and only then let it go. That way, you will be able to set up a NAT if required. One last part that I'd like to discuss is the concept of a VLAN, virtual LAN. So as you're familiar, a virtual LAN is used to logically segment your physical switch so that you can create networks within the same switch. One set of networks could work on the 10 dot range, one could be on the 172, one could be on the 192 range. Now if you want to use VLANs in your vSphere network, please understand, you must first of all create the VLAN on your physical switch. And if let's say a NIC card needs to communicate with multiple VLANs, then make sure this NIC card is connected to a trunk port. A trunk port is one that has access to multiple VLANs. It should have access to all those VLANs that you propose to use. And now, in this example, so this also is a trunk then. Assume you want this VM and there is another VM called VM5. Yeah. Supposing you want VM4 to talk to VLAN number 10 and VLAN 5 to talk to VLAN number 20, it's as simple as creating the port group and aligning this port group to VLAN number 10 and aligning this port group to VLAN number 20. Automatically, the vSwitch will add the VLAN 10 header and send it, and when it receives it, it removes the header and sends it out again.
So the managing of the VLAN is done by the vSwitch in that case. The removing
Correct.
of the header and
Adding and heading is done, but then don't forget the vSwitch is dependent on the physical switch. You must have such a VLAN present on the physical switch, else it doesn't serve the purpose. It's a very simple device. So in this context, you can actually communicate and make sure your VMs have that additional level of security as well. Correct? So to summarize today's discussion, we have understood how some physical networks work, what are some of the basic requirements for the networks. We then compared those requirements with the vSphere networking requirements, and we saw how these networks are able to communicate. And then we have also discussed the types of virtual ports that can be used on a vSphere environment, and we've understood the purpose in using each of these ports. I thank you all for watching this presentation. In the next presentation, we will see how we can actually use these concepts practically in the labs. Thank you.